Hey, my name is Tim from Germany, and this little video I'm gonna show you how to create an animated brush pattern like this one you see on the screen right now. This one you can use for like overlaying on your video or whatever you want actually, and I'm gonna show you how to create this animated brush pattern. So first, what do we need for that? So the first thing is that we need a software that we can use in order to create an image sequence out of our canvas, and Photoshop is actually capable of doing that, so I'm gonna do it in Photoshop. I'm gonna use a little bit older version of Photoshop because I had some problems doing that with the new versions of Photoshop. If that is not the case, then you should maybe use a newer version of Photoshop because some features are a little bit better in there, so that can be helpful too. So the first thing we're gonna do is actually create a new canvas, and we have to make it match like the resolution we want. So mine is 1920 by 1080, and like we take a 300 dpi, but actually that is depending on what you need. But yeah, that's it for me, and we can give the project a name actually. Yeah, like overlay, and yeah, then we can start. So the first thing we need to do is actually make a new layer down here. And now we have another thing that is really important. In order to get the brush pattern I have in my version of the overlay, I have downloaded a package that is actually pretty good for doing that, but actually you can go online and look for a pattern or a brush set that fits your style, and then you can download it and import it into Photoshop. I've already done that. So as you can see down here, I have now my brush selected that I want to use for my pattern, and it's actually good if your brushes are pretty high resolution, because we want to get like a really big pattern that we can use, and if the brushes are not that high resolution, it's not that easy to achieve a cool looking pattern, and they should also have a little bit of detail around the edges, so that is definitely good to notice. So if you have your brush selected, we can go down and we make sure that our new layer is selected. Don't worry, my setup here in Photoshop is in German, but in your case it should be in English, and I will refer to the English terms, so I hope that is okay. So now we have our brush selected, and now we make sure that we have black selected, and if I click down here, you can see that there is a lot of detail in this brush, and that is exactly what we want. I'm gonna delete this layer, and we want a little bit more detail in there. Something like this. You can also bring down the size of your brush in order to get different patterns. Something like this. So if we have created our first layer, then we can move on and we create another layer. That is important because we want to animate these brush layers, and this is the trick how everything of that works. So we have our first layer. We can make it invisible by clicking on the little eye icon right here, and now we gonna go, maybe we can change up a little bit of our brush settings. Yeah, like for example, that looks really cool. And now we create another layer and so on, and now we can, for example, take maybe something like that. Now I'm gonna bring down the size just a little bit in order to create something like that. And then we move on. And I would suggest, like, it's cool to have a lot of layers because you have a lot of variety, but actually I will make around 7 or so. That should be enough for what we are doing in this video. Maybe we should stay at 5 because the more we have, the more complicated it gets, and the video gets longer. So if we are happy with our layers we have, then we should start and get an image sequence going. And this is actually fairly easy. You see I have the timeline down here already, and we can achieve that through going to Window up here, and then we go down to, let me see, Timeline. It's down here or somewhere around here, so you should find that, and you just click on it, and then it's ticked, and we have the timeline down here. So, and what we have to do now is actually to click on this little button here. It's creating a timeline now for us, and what's in here is actually usable for what we going to do, but actually I would recommend going down here to these 3 squares, and we click on them, and now they are creating like this little image sequence. I don't know how to call it, an image sequence timeline, and that is actually a little bit better for what we are trying to do. So as you can see, we have now our first layer, and we can see by clicking down here what our first layer looks like. And this is actually the 5th layer, and we want to have the first layer at first. So I'm gonna hide that and unhide the first layer we have created. So now, in order to get a new layer down here in the timeline, we have to click down here onto that little piece of paper or whatever that is. And now we hide our first layer and unhide the second layer. And now, as you can see, we can see the second layer. And now we do the same thing till we are through the whole image sequence we have created. So, and if I click down onto this little arrow that is pointing to my right, we can actually go through the image sequence, but as you can see, it is really, really slow, and that is actually not what we want. So if you click down here, you can see that there is a little, we have a little window where we can choose how long the whole picture should be seen or should take to play through. And let me set this to 0.1 second for now, and if I do the same thing now, it's really, really quick. And as you can see, it is always stopping at the end, and this is actually not what we really want. So let's go down here, and we can check once, playing through once, playing through the whole image sequence 3 times, and then unlimited. And we want it unlimited so that the image sequence is playing through the whole time. So it's pretty fast playing right now, and now it depends on what you want to achieve. In my case, it's a little bit too fast, so I'm gonna set the whole thing onto 0.2 seconds, every canvas, every layer. And let's see how that looks. I think that's a little bit better because it is still relatively fast. I'm gonna check if 0.3 might be better, but that's actually a little bit better. Maybe we gonna change that to 0.3, and maybe, okay, we have to do this for every single layer. So you have to press on other and then you can type in whatever time you want. And for me that is 0.3 seconds. I don't know why they don't add that into that selection over here, but yeah, we have to do it for every layer once. Oh, okay, so that's a trick. If you don't want to do the whole process again, you can just go through here and make a new layer, and then it's already set to 0.3 seconds, and you can just change up the... Oh no, we have deleted our 5th layer. That's a little bit uncool. We're gonna take this one then. So if I play it through it now, it's actually pretty... Actually, that's not that bad. I like that. The only thing I don't really like is how the first layer looks. It is not really... The detail is there, but it is not really sharp. It does not feel right. So I'm gonna deselect that, and maybe we should... I'd like to have a little bit more white, like... Let's see how that looks. Okay, that's actually a problem that you will have a couple of times, because as you can see now, not only is the layer selected we have painted, but also the new layer we created is also set to visible at every frame, so we have to make this layer invisible on every frame. So now it should be a little bit better. Yeah, actually that's fine for what we are doing, and I like the timing too. So if you are ready with how the image sequence looks, then it gets really important. Now we have to export our image sequence, or we have to export this like little video we have made into an image sequence, and we go to exporting, and then we go to video render, and that is actually what makes our video image sequence, because we see here that we have 0, 0, 0, that would be the first frame, and then it goes through frame 1, frame 2, etc. So here we have the frame rate, but let everything like it is. Actually, you have the name of your file up here, and you should choose a destination of your whole work. So that should be it for what you should do in here. And if you have set everything like you want it to be, then you should click on render, and it should go through the whole process of yeah, like rendering out the image sequence. So as you can see, I've set my destination to a new folder I've created, and now I'm gonna hit render, and that could take a while, because I don't actually know why it is taking relatively long. I had more problems with doing this process in the newer versions of Photoshop, but with this older version it is actually working, and this is what we want to see. The green bar should fill out the whole square, and then it should be done. For actually rendering out a relatively short image sequence, it's taking relatively long, but okay, we just wait for that, and then I will be back. So as we can see, our image sequence is exported, so we can go to the folder where we have saved this image sequence. So for me, that is this folder over here. And as you can see, we have our images in here. And what is also noticeable is that we have some layers a couple of times behind each other. That is due to that this frame should take a little bit longer than like just 1 second, like 0.1 second. You know, we have selected the time to 0.3 seconds, so this layer is shown like a little bit longer than only once. So that is the reason for that. And now we need a program where we can take this image sequence, import it, and get a video sequence like for example, a video out of it. And I would recommend using whatever software you want, but I'm gonna use Blender for doing that because it is also an image sequence and a video sequence counting software, so you can use it for video editing too. As you can see, now we are in Blender, and what we have to do in Blender is relatively easy. If you go up here, you can see that we have the video sequencer up here. If you press there, we go into the video sequencer. When we are in the video sequencer, we have to go up to Add, and then we go to Image Sequence. We have to go into our folder where we have saved the whole project. So for me, it's on the desktop, and then I have to go into the folder. And once you're in your folder, you select your first image. It is marked with the project name and then 0000, and then you go down till the end and you select like the last picture in your folder. Make sure that there is nothing in your folder that is maybe another video sequence, another image sequence. It should really only be the photos we have exported out of Photoshop or whatever software you are using. And yeah, that's actually what we need. And then you go and press Add Image Strip. So, as you can see in here right now, we have our video sequence or our sequence here, and if I play that, we can see that it is in here, but we don't see any kind of picture, I don't know. So for that, we're gonna go up here and press this little plus, and then we go to our video editing and video editing. So, and if you take your cursor and we go with this selection tool down here till we are like at the first frame, then we see there's nothing. We can actually maybe do that, but actually no, Blender is like a software where you in Blender you just have to have like the beginning of the video on frame 1 and not frame 0, so that's totally fine. And if we play through here, we can see that our image sequence is definitely playing. So in order to make our video sequence a little bit longer than only a few seconds, because if you have an overlay, it's a pain to like extend it always if you are in the video software. So we're gonna make it a few seconds longer by press Command C and Command V, and now we have duplicated this sequence. So if we go down here and I play through that, it will jump back to the, that's really good. So we can do that process again, like duplicate this one, and now we have like a little bit longer video sequence. As you can see, it is playing through, it is playing through again, it's playing through again. You can extend that as long as you want, I don't know. 4 times will be enough for the tutorial, but if you want a really long overlay video, you can extend that till you are happy with it. So in order to export the video file out of Blender, we go up to this button over here and make sure that your resolution is set to the resolution we have set in Photoshop, because of course the layers we have imported into Blender are the same resolution as we have selected in Photoshop. So then make sure that we have 100% in order to get the true resolution we have selected over here. And now we have to go to this frame rate, and of course we have set in Photoshop our frame rate to 30 frames per second, and if we play through here you will see that it is now a little bit faster. Through that you can change your timing in the video a little bit more, like if you want to have it a little bit slower, like as you can see if I play it now it is a little bit slower than if I would set it to 30 FPS, and I actually like that a little bit more. It seems to be a little bit more subtle, so that's actually exactly what I want. So if we go back here, we can see that our track is actually 181 frames, and that is exactly how long our image sequence is that we have like duplicated. And Blender is set to the end at 250, and that's not what we want because we have a lot of frames that are empty right now. So let us set this to the number we have done at the bottom over here. It's set to 181, and we set this number in up here, and now as you can see it is shortened to here, and actually we see that there is even one frame too much, so we can set it to 180, and yeah, now it is perfectly ending onto that frame, and that's exactly what we want. In order to save your video file wherever you want, just click on here, and now we can go up to the folder where you want to save that video. In my case, I'm gonna save that video in my video folder, and I just type in overlay. That should be enough, and I call it overlay 2 because I have some overlays lying around, so in order to distinguish them. So I press accept, so now we have set it to on files, video, and then the name of the file, and it's overlay 2. We have set the start and the end frame, and as you can see here we have the start frame at frame 1 and not frame 0, and that was what I'm referring to. Down here you should select your file format, and this is in our case AV-JPEG, because we want to have a video format. And yeah, here you can choose if you want a black and white or RGB. I would suggest RGB because it's the better. Yeah, it's actually I don't think that it is so important because we have only black and white in our images, but RGB, if you have color in here, it's better to have RGB. Crank the quality up to 100% because that's important in order to gain the maximum quality. Yeah, so that should be it. The rest in here is actually fine. So in order to export our video sequence to the folder we have selected a couple of seconds ago, we just go up here and press render animation. And as you can see right now, it is going through all our frames we have created, and it should take a couple of seconds, but as you can see here we have frame 60 right now and we have 180 frames, so it's not that long. So as you can see, we are now at frame 180. That means our image sequence has exported into a video format, and we're gonna look up how it looks right now. I have now the video file we have actually already exported from Blender. And if I double click on that, we can see our image sequence in the video format, and actually it's looking okay right now. And now you can take this video file and overlay it, for example, in, I don't know, whatever video software you are using. There are a lot of ways you can use such an overlay in order to gain some kind of old looking film effect, or maybe to get, because it is like looking a little bit like paper, you can use that also for creating some kind of paper illusion for text, for example, or for other things. So that is only limited by your own creativity. So I hope I could help you with creating such an image sequence and getting it into a full video format. And if you liked the video and if it helped you out, I would be really happy to see a thumb up in on the video, and you can also comment if you want, and maybe subscribe. There are a lot of German videos on my channel, but maybe you can yeah, like see what I'm doing and learn something out of there. So yeah, that's it for this video, and I hope you yeah, get cool looking results.